Hi, Jim Hazard, Common Accord. Here's Common Accord, working with the IACCM. Wendy of the IACCM has suggested that we should show how we bring together the various threads of the standardization conversation. So among the things that she cites are that there are efforts to collect and codify forms of agreements. Some of those are done in using analytic methods, and there are also efforts to simplify these things, including efforts to make them far more graphic in their orientation in order to facilitate understanding. So this will need to create a common lexicon and structure, and which is to say break them down into components that can be referenced. They need to integrate with smart contracts, that is to say open source automation of transacting software. We need to use the efforts of the IACCM in order to harmonize these. So let me show the part that Common Accord can do, how we can be helpful in that respect. So this is an example of a cooperation agreement, and in fact it's a repository that includes three kinds of agreements. Let me first walk through essentially the components, how we organize components. So the sections of documents are broken down into pieces. We have certain things here that are specific to these three kind of use cases, to a consulting agreement, to a cooperation agreement, and to a non-disclosure agreement. But most of the components are contained in these file folders here. So relationship, there's an awful lot that goes into a relationship. How you amend the agreement, whether you can assign the agreement, what the compensation is, the confidentiality provisions, various covenants, disputes, law, etc. And in each one of these things we'll find that there are subcategories. So under confidentiality you have the engagements, you have the exceptions, you have an introduction, you have the term of the confidentiality agreement, etc. So, and this keeps going down and down to each of the components. So the engagement includes what level of care and what level of access, whether you can make copies, whether you can decompile, what your use is, etc. So all these things just keep burying down until you get finally to actual language. So you see how we've organized these essentially in a tree. That's the basic notion. So, and that you can do for any variety, and you can do it essentially infinitely, creating extra variations on this. You can do it in a single tree if you want to. We use those in outlines. We pull them together using outlines. So here we'll see if we do a consulting agreement, the outline, there are a lot of little components here, but you'll see that basically these things come together into a structure of an outline. And this is slightly technical looking because it allows us enormous flexibility in swapping pieces in and out. So this outline is then used in connection with a form. So this is the form agreement. Again, if we go to the consulting agreement, what we see is the consulting agreement. We see our outline here, and we reference the sections that might be part of consulting agreements. The outline will select among them. And we indicate a frame of the agreement, so we have the parties here. We use this in order to have all the cross-references be hyperlinks. So all of this is done in HTML, is all available on GitHub. So we'll take a look at GitHub. This is an ideal system, makes everything available on GitHub. So all of those sections, everything that we did is available on GitHub. And you can fork it, or make your own repository, or suggest improvements. And those improvements can be easily tracked. So now let us go and look at that consulting agreement. So here the parties have done a non-disclosure agreement, they did a cooperation agreement, they're now doing a consulting agreement. And we'll go right here to the signature of the consulting agreement. What should a signature of an agreement look like? It should look like signatures and a reference to the agreement. We'll now render this. This will take a moment, particularly because the video capture stuff sucks up a lot of the processing power of my machine. And we're working this this is being. So here's our agreement, the consulting agreement, and it includes all the information relating to the parties. We haven't decided why we're doing this agreement yet, but you'll see that all of these components are here, and pretty much everything is cross-referenced. So this is the outline, and it's now populated with the materials. All the cross-references are hyperlinks like this, so that it'll take you to the definition of the term. And what we try to do with this is to put the most important provisions in the front, so the focus of the agreement is the engagement for services and the compensation. And then the rest of it is sort of relationship. So these materials are high quality, taken from a very good form prepared by a law firm. And you can see how we can iterate this into anything that we might want. So let me stop there, simply saying that you can satisfy the desire to make all of these things into components. So into components, you can look it up on GitHub, into components, and collaborate on them under the auspices of the IACCM, bringing in analytics and connecting to smart contracts, because these forms can be used in a native way on GitHub, in a native way using some of the more advanced technologies, including IPLD. All right,